So in this first part, we're going to trace back to the earliest history of Guangdong province. So right over there on the top, we have a fossilized skull of what today we call Ma Ba Man. So Ma Ba Man was a member of early sapiens. So in biological clarification, today's human being we call us Homo sapiens. Okay, Homo sapiens. And Ma Ba Man was a member of early sapiens. So from a biological perspective, we're slightly different. So as we can see from this restored statue from that part of skull, we could see that the facial aspect of the Ma Ba Man, the appearance are quite different from this. For example, they have quite high-raised eyebrows, okay, and also they have high cheekbones, and meanwhile the nostrils are actually wider than modern human beings. So these are some differences we can identify between today's modern human being and Ma Ba Man. Having said so, Ma Ba Man is one of the earliest settlements today we can find in Guangdong province, and they live around 180,000 years ago. Okay. And together with Ma Ba Man, there were also a wide variety of different animals reside in the province. I think most interestingly, if we can see over here, it's number 3. So number 3 here, we could see that we can find some early bears, and even number 2 over there, you could actually see 2 giant pandas. So all suggesting that we're looking at 108,000 years ago there was the habitant of giant pandas in Guangdong province. It's very, very interesting.
So why you translate Ma Ba Man, not Ma Ba people? It's your official translation?
Yeah, that's the official translation.
Okay.
Also, man refers to the whole species, but people, somewhere you can always refer to something with, first of all, it's a human being characteristic, and also sometimes you're implying there's a society or some social status behind it. So we the people of China, something like that. So as a people, we could create a society, we have some social aspect behind it, so the two words have
Thank you.
Different meanings. And so back to Ma Ba Man, they actually managed to have some very primitive industries like stone tooth making. So that's why we also call them Paleolithic period, 旧石器时代, Paleolithic period. Okay. So you can see that the primitive stone tools made were actually created by smashing 2 pieces of stones with each other and expecting the stone to crack. And they could use the sharp edge as a blade or knife to cut or sometimes chop materials that come in hands. So for example, you can start to chop some small trees, tree branches, and they can try to use the stone blades to cut through the skin of animals essentially. So that's the primitive industries. And so because of the primitive, so we call them the Paleolithic period. And correspondingly, since we have Paleolithic, then we have Neolithic, 旧石器时代, 新石器时代. So, yeah. Getting around here, those are actually much closer to us today. So those are from 8,000 years ago. Right, so yeah. So between that and here we have 100,000 years time gap. Okay. And you can see that the stone tools over there are much more complicated and delicate than what you see previously. So that suggests there's improvements in the techniques that we use. So back then, I said the primary technique we used was to smashing the 2 stones and trying to get some cracks on the edge. But over here, you can see that all the stones have a very regular shape. So that's suggesting that they use much more advanced techniques such as polishing. Right? So they can, start to polish their stone tools. So that's why they have more regular shape, and you can see that the blades get much thinner than what you see previously. And with the techniques improving gradually, they could also make some very complicated decorative artifacts with their stones. And gradually, I think in Chinese culture, we start to form a concept of there's no like very corresponding English translation. But sometimes we call them jade or something. But in China, yu is yu. So in the Asian transcripts, zhou li is always said. So the beautiful stones are called yu. 十之美者为之yu. So every stone, as long as they're beautiful, in ancient Chinese eyes, they're yu. So with those yu, they can make very beautiful background artifacts, which we can see over there. So all those are decorative purposes, sometimes to show their social status, with not a lot of practical use in real life. Okay. And I think also very interesting to see that. So when people start to get creative and making decorative artifacts, and so there's always an element of design. So how should I present this beautiful stone? And the design can into play. So things get interesting. For example, over there, so this cylinder, this rectangular cylinder, today we call it yutong. So this ship is actually originates from Liangzhu, so somewhere near Hangzhou. Right. So that's very interesting to see that even at around 8,000 years ago, people start to communicate with each other. So designs or either this whole thing itself will come from Hangzhou and finally arrive somewhere in Guangdong. So you can see that geographic span. So today you could take flight or train with her about that kind of just mountains and mountains and rivers and rivers between two places. It's very interesting. You can see that in ancient times, people start to know about each other and they learn about each other, and most importantly, they like the creation of each other, so they borrow the things into their own territory. So, as we were just saying, stone making or stone tools making sometimes regarded as oldest industry in human history. And the second oldest industry in human history is just pottery making. Pottery is also, I think, strictly speaking, the first man-made material in human civilization history. So we make stone tools, but the materials themselves are formed in the nature. So, stones come from nature, of course. But we come to from pottery making, the clay we use actually the ingredients are picked by my hand and processed by my hand. So the material used is strictly speaking artificial. So this is also like the first time artificial materials being used for making tools and wares for daily use. So here we could see the potteries from unearthed all over Guangdong province, and we could see some very strange or some very interesting distinctions between two parts of Guangdong province. So up there you can see that all those, almost all those potteries, they share the same elements in which they have 3 feet.
3 feet.
Yeah, they have 3 feet. All of them have. Almost. Oh. Yeah, most of them have 3 feet. But down there you can see that. So their feet is actually a cylinder. So 圈子, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they actually suggest they come from different parts of Guangdong province, right? So up there you can see that the 3 feet potteries that came from Shaoguan, so northern part of Guangdong province. Yeah. And down here you can see, they just basically come from, I think, regions nearby, so around the Pearl River Delta.
The same time.
Not. Yeah.
制作的时代是一样的。
对，都是新石器时代 Neolithic period. So it actually suggests that people living in these areas, they learn the techniques and their techniques popular in different way. So in northern part, like in Shaoguan, so the designs are actually quite similar to what we could see in northern part of China. So suggesting that the pottery making skills probably came from, say, the northern part of China. So for example, our neighbors, so they could from Jiangxi or even further from Zhejiang provinces. Back down here, so those potteries actually shared elements from the upper reach of Pearl River, so somewhere around Sichuan or today's Guangxi. So they're actually suggesting people could learn techniques from different areas of China, and they all come to Guangdong eventually. So I think it also corresponds to a very popular theory, I think, very popular recent years. So the civilization of China China did not originate from one single center, but it's actually emerged from different parts of China, and they gradually grow and emerge with each other and solidify into the concept of China. So that's why we can say that different, the pottery wares from different parts of China at the same time they share different characteristics. Yeah. This giant oil painting depicts a person right over there, so the man in the center. His name is Zhao Tuo. So Zhao Tuo roughly lives, let's say, about 2,400 years ago. So his time was actually very close to the end of Qin dynasty. And so his rank was at first just a general under Qing Emperor, and the emperor sent him to Lingnan region, so today's Guangdong, Guangxi, and even part of Vietnam, and to make those areas a part of this great empire of the Qing dynasty. And he's succeeded to doing that. So he established several local authorities. Today we call them Jun. So we have Guilin Jun, Xiangjun, Nanhai Jun. So covering today's Guangdong, Guangxi, and the northern half of Vietnam. Yeah. And we all know Qing dynasty was shortly before, almost a few decades. So with the chaos come from the collapse of Qing dynasty, Zhao Tuo barricaded the northern mountain, just between Guangdong and Jiangxi, and declared himself a king. So he established his own kingdom called Nanyue Guo. So right here you can see that he's standing there in the posture of a king, governing his population, his people, subjects over there. So his people, you can see that they come from different cultural backgrounds. People behind him came from northern part of China. So by the way, Zhao Tuo, his hometown is actually today is Shijiazhuang, so he's from Hebei. So
from here?
No, Hebei.
Yes, I think he's from here.
Yeah.
How can I tell? By feet?
Yeah, so that's...
Sorry. Take photo.
Yeah, step. So he said the officials, generals behind him, they all dressed like what we could find, let's say, Central Plain style, so Zhongyuan, right? So his subjects over there, they're all local, you can say, minorities. Some of them bare-chested, some wearing clothes in local style. So that's a country he was trying to manage at the time. People all from very, very different backgrounds and social costumes. So Zhao Tuo's way was to, today we call assimilate everybody into the whole society. So he encouraged people to embrace each other's different culture and different practices. He encouraged like the cross, not race, but like cross-culture marriages, and he himself married to I think a local indigenous woman, and he also encouraged like local indigenous people to get into his court to take some ministerial roles. So for example, his prime minister was actually one from the local minorities. And so legends say that Zhao Tuo managed to live a very, very old age to the 108 years. Yeah, so very interestingly, he outlived all of his sons. So all of his sons actually died before him. Yeah, so his throne was passed to his grandson directly. Right, so today in Guangzhou, so at Yuexiu Camp we have Xihan Nanyue Wang Museum. So that museum actually built upon his grandson's tomb. Yeah. So by the way, Zhao Tuo established his own kingdom, and he established the capital city right here in Guangzhou. So I think that's somehow the history of whole Guangzhou gets started. So around 2,200 years ago.
How many wives do you have?
I have no idea. Okay. So we're now passing whole structure is called Meihuan, so Mei Pass. Mei Pass is actually divide today's Guangdong province and Zhengxi province. And so Mei Pass is very important. If we look at today's Guangdong map, we realize that, I think I mentioned it several times already, so in the northern part of Guangdong, we're just basically cut off from the rest of the part of China by the just end of ridges and mountains and hills. Right? So today we come the 5 mountains of Wuling. Right? So up until Tang Dynasty, the situation is it is very, very difficult to get to Guangdong from land from other parts of China. So the situation got changed in the 7th century. So this guy. Zhang Jiuling was actually the first ever Guangdong-born prime minister in China's history. And he served the Tang Xuanzong, so Tang Dynasty, Tang Xuanzong Emperor's court. When he retired at his old age, he came back to his hometown here in Guangdong and realized the road was very, very difficult to use. So as the founding and host of the project himself, made a very, very usable road to connect Guangdong and the rest of the part of China. So today we're calling it 大榆岭道. The road is actually very modern from many perspectives. So for example, the road itself has a drainage system underneath. So when there's heavy rain, like happens really often here in Guangdong, the rainwater will just get through the surface road and go to the drainage down there, and so keep the road dry. And also the road is actually wide enough to make 2 horse carriages 2 parts. So they actually split the road at quarter to today. So there's a line in the center of the road and everybody just take the right side. Yeah. And also to make people easier for use at night. So the edge of the road are actually marked by white stones. So even at very dim light, you can see very clearly where is the edge of the road. So as I've mentioned, the road is actually cutting through mountains, so you know where the other road is. So to prevent you from fall off the road and sometimes fall into a cliff. So that's all the modern aspects of this road, and always done by early 8th century. And so that's why we have this portrait over here. So with the connection between Guangdong province and the central part of China gets strength, and we can see that local customers also start to show some characteristics from the central plain part of China. So for example, all those potteries artifacts are actually burial artifacts. So stuff we found in people's tombs. So in Han Dynasty, there is a saying called 视死如生, so we'll serve the dead like they're still alive. Okay, yeah. Probably movies. Wait. Hey.
这个就找到第一个。
好，我等一会儿啊，等一会儿好不好？有急事不？哦，那我等一会儿，我正好有点忙，我晚一点打给你啊。对，我现在对，我有点工作要忙。
妈妈，咱们就不要出去就普通了。
Okay. Let's go get that. So, 视死如生, so basically we have to serve the dead like they're still alive. Yeah, so we have to bury everything they need in their daily life into tombs so that they can continue their happy life, even underwater. So if we study what they bury as people, at the time we'll know what people were using in their daily life. So for example, in those pottery houses, we can see very clearly how people live back then. So we know the living houses like this, so very similar to what we could see in other parts of China. Right, so there's basically 2-story bedrooms upstairs, and on the ground floor there's usually a kitchen and sometimes actually the toilet. And the ground floor is also used to keep livestock. So yeah, this is actually So when it comes to the Chinese character Jia, you can already see there's a roof on top, and underneath there's actually a peak. Yeah. So that actually refers to this form of house. This is a basic form of a home. And also underneath, I think something very interesting starts to appear as well. So we have to imagine that there's a period of time when people trying to drink water, they just take whatever they can find out in the open and. So people would just get whatever water source they could find in the open air, so they could get polluted by anything, from past and even to animal drops. So yeah. So from that perspective, the drinking water, the quality of the water is not always good. So water well from today to today is not a very clear sort of water still, but back then it was quite a technology advancement. So people start to get a steady source of clear drinking water for their daily use. So this is a primitive, very primitive form of a water well. So contrary to what we think about water well, which is you dig very deep into underground and you get underground water, right? At the early stage in history, the water well is not that advanced. So just basically a very deep den on the ground, and people were just place layer of working materials like bricks, small stones, and even clear sand on the wall of the well. So when it's raining, the water will try to flow into the water well. They'll get through the filtering materials on the side of the wall, and inside the well you get filtered water, which is relatively clear, and the water will stay there still for a while. So whatever substance they have in the water will just sink into the bottom, and when you drink, you just take the clear water from the surface. So that's why you can obviously people are trying to build a roof on top of the well, so just preventing even more foreign substances get into the water to contaminate it. So now we come to part 3. So we call this 3 main sub-ethnic of Guangdong province. So we have Guangfu, Chaoshan, and Hakka. So those people are the main 3 ethnic groups in Guangdong province. They're all Hanzu, so they're all Han people, but they share very different ethnic aspects in the culture. So they speak different dialects, and some of their customs are different, and then their way of living is also very different. So that's what we'll talk about in this next section of this exhibition. So first part, when we talk about Guangfu culture, the center of Guangfu culture is of course here in the city in Guangzhou. So Guangfu culture is more or less interchangeable with what we can call the Guangzhou culture. So I think the signature aspect of Guangzhou culture is the foodie culture, so people trying to eat everything. And this actually comes from the Neolithic period. So you can see already that in the Neolithic period, Guangdong people, they try to eat everything they could find. So you can see different kind of seafood, and over there you can see people eat elephant. And deer was also on their menu, and other animals. And over here, we're about to explore a little bit agriculture. Agriculture history of Guangdong, or the area actually around Guangzhou. So, as I said, what people bury in their tombs is something what you have in daily life. So you could already see people start to bury rice paddies in their tombs, suggesting they have agriculture activities in a very active way. And also, so the rice paddies also suggests the production of good quality rice here in the local area. So many think that that's the reason why today's Guangzhou we use the word sui. So they actually refers to the rice grains to call the city. And
Is that the boat?
yeah, that's a small boat. Yeah. So over here they're just basically drinking vessels or choose to make alcoholic beverages. And because we have abundant food production and when you have a food surplus, you can have the luxury to produce alcohol. So you can see that alcohol making also started very early here in Guangdong province due to the good production of agricultural food. And I see something interesting, maybe just one or two. So over here, those cups, you can call them ear cups, so referring to the handles on the side look at ears of human being. So those are actually popular around Han Dynasty, let's say around 200 BC to 2 centuries, so those era. And so a very interesting practice people will do is, let's see, just in a month or two, somewhere around March when there's like spring, people just take those cups into the mountains and they're just found as a flowing stream. People will take position on the side of the stream and someone will just fill a cup with wine and put like a small boat on the upper river, and the cup will just gradually flow downstream, and when they stop in front of someone, then someone have to pick up the cup and make a poem and then enjoy wine. So that's some very let's see academic entertainment back then. 曲水流觞。
Where is 分开？
分开我该怎么形容？也在广东。
Small town.
Yeah. They have a National Geographic Park over here. 丰台有个国家地质公园。So these two dragon boats are, I think, the largest exhibits in the whole museum, right? And so each about 40 meters long, and they are actually all used in real life and later on donated to our museum. So the one in the back actually was donated by Liedu village, so where the place where now is Liedu village. And the one in the front was actually a donation from Panyu district. So you can see that the dragon boat from Liedu was a little bit more flowery. So there's more decoration on the side. Sorry. Because in Liedu they believe that a dragon is actually female, so they try to dress her up. So there's a female dragon in the back with more beautiful clothes. So today's Chinese people generally regard, rolling the dragon boat onto 5th of May, Duanwu, as a action to commemorate Quyuan. But in Guangdong province, it's not always the case. So history is very clear that the Guangdong people start to row dragon boats way back earlier than Quyuan's time. So yeah, before Quyuan was born, Guangdong people already start to row dragon boats in the river. So people believe that the practice of rowing dragon boats on a specific date was actually paying tribute for some god. Say for example, gods of summer, gods of fire, or gods of water. So those are actually very primitive worshipping practices, but later on they get somehow combined with the practice of commemorate Quyuan and become today's Duanwuji's custom.
How long is this boat?
40 meters. 40, yeah. Actually, because these boats are so huge that there's no like single lift or elevator you can use to fit them in. So they actually came into the museum before we have a roof above us. Yeah. So they placed these two dragon boats on the floor and then finished the roof.
So it's the original one?
Yes. And so over here we have some very interesting pottery figures, all suggesting some local customers. I think very interesting one So as they call it, puts knowledge into children's belly. So what to do is actually, so here in Guangzhou, so on the first day of school of a child, the mother will just bind a pile of book on the stomach of the child. And you can see that not only just books and also spring onions, home. So that means 聪明, so clever in Chinese. And also you can see that mother was actually trying to put something on the stool over there. So that's actually a sticky pie, so made of sticky rice, so 糯米做的, right? So the purpose is very clear, since the child will go to stay from that time. So the mother wants the child to stay seated and just read his book. So there is a sticky pie to sit the child to the stool. 把小朋友粘在凳子上。
弟弟了。
So in this area we'll talk about the culture of Hakka people. Chaoshan people. So Chaoshan people, their center is today's Chaozhou Shantou Pingyuan, Chaozhou Shantou Plain. So Chaoshan is actually a very cut off area, so they're all surrounded by mountains, and so the only open way to them is actually the ocean. So that's why they have a very strong maritime and commercial culture background. And today's I think many very famous and successful Chinese businessmen, they have Chaoshan background. So from Li Jiacheng or Ma Huateng, they all have Chaoshan background. I think the most distinctive aspect in Chaoshan culture is their enthusiasm on tea. So yeah, they carry their tea and tea making tools everywhere they go. So as you can see, they have very delicate way to and very specific way to make the tea. The kids they have this millimeter spoon and okay. So when they heat up water, they have to observe the status of water very closely. Basically to monitor the temperature, but at a time when you do not have a thermometer good enough to measure the temperature around 100 Celsius degree, you have to listen to the noise the water is making and observe the emerging bubble from the bottom of the pot to decide if the water is at the right temperature. And when the water is heated up, they also have to heat all the tea wares they use. So the teapot and also the cups they use, they all have to be heated up. So to prevent when the water gets into those wares and the water starts to cool down and lose the good temperature for making the tea. And also very interesting, you will notice when they make the tea, they always use this very small cup. So for them, drinking tea is not to get rid of thirst, but for them it's really just to enjoy and to experience the tea. So that's why they use this very small cup. So every time you just make one small sip, right? And so the right way to drink tea in Chaoshan is actually to pick up the cup and make sure the surface water is right below your nose, and you just drink the whole cup just in one go, so top up, bottom up. And after you drink the tea, there's also some remaining water in the bottom of the cup, and you just get it very close to your nose, and you can smell and enjoy the scent of it, and that's the whole procedure of enjoying tea in Chaoshan.
It's a really cool time event.
Yeah. I think some of the light anyway. So over here we're actually to look at the Chaoshan embroidery. Chaoshan embroidery. I think A characteristic element of Chaoshan embroidery is the way they use a lot of golden thread. So real gold in this thread. You can see that there's some shining part of this work. So basically what to do is they wrap a very thin layer of gold around the silk thread and they use them to in their embroidery work. So that's why the whole sort of luxurious and shining. So that's the number one characteristic. And number two is they try to make their embroidery to have a little bit 3D aspect. So you can see already that some part of the embroidery is actually protruding out of surface of the clothes. So while they make the embroidery, they're trying to stuff some silk or sometimes a little bit cotton underneath so that you could have a small bump. And so the part will protrude from the surface of the clothes to have some 3D effect. I think most clearly to see the benefits of having this technique is actually look at the face. Yeah, so you can see all the cheekbones are actually protruding, right? Yeah, all cheekbones are protruding from the surface of clothes, so that's you can have a more lively feeling on the people cactus on the clothes. So that's the benefit of the cactus. So that's it. In Chaoshan embroidery, I think the two most extensive, distinctive features is to use golden thread and also to use what called stuffing embroidery, 电绣. Yeah. And I think Chaoshan also a very, very major site for making porcelains throughout Chinese history. Chaoshan started to make porcelains and for export, at least I think they have a history of doing that at least 1,600 years at least. So throughout the history, you can see that because what they do is just basically export. So the style they use shifts dramatically over time. So basically to reflect the appetite and demand of the overseas customers. So I think from right over there you can see that, for example, so around Song Tang Dynasty, people would prefer to have what we call a more reserved design. So you can see that the color is basically some light green or light blue and not a lot of painting on it. And then later on you can see that statue over there that actually I think this porcelain statue comes from I think the gain popularity of today's Fujian, so Dehuayao. So they're making pottery statues and Chaoshan people just follow on very quickly. And then of course we have this blue and white porcelains, which was popular start from Yuan Dynasty and later on. So throughout history, Chaoshan people just adapt to the market very quickly and they make the porcelains in a style that what the market demands. So showing this very, very strong feature of an export porcelain production. So this is a display of wood carving of Chaoshan region. So in Chaoshan region, I think the fun part is when they make the wood carving, they always try to put auspicious meaning in it, right? So, so for example, the one in the center. So this one can be actually read 一路连科. So this actually refers to in the examination system for Asian China, people try to get past the serious examinations to be admitted into the royal court and to become government officials. And 一路连科 actually refers to be very successful continuously in those serious examinations. And the way to do that is actually use the element to correspond to the preservation of each word. So you have 鹿, so that's the bird, right? Yeah. Lu is a bird, and lian of course means lotus flower, and ke actually right over there, they're actually frogs. Yeah, the offspring frogs are tadpoles, and tadpoles kedo, right? So put them together, 一路连科. So this one actually relates to, you can see that examination, success and education. So we have this person also here, the portrait is Han Yu. So Han Yu was actually banished to Chaoshan in Tang Dynasty. In his own records, when he arrived, the local people they could not write, they could barely write, and Chaoshan was just basically a very, very undeveloped area. So we can see that people just running around stark naked, so without wearing anything at all. So Chaoshan tried to improve the situation, and most importantly, Chaoshan thought that education could be the way to getting people on the right track to improve themselves. So he managed, and he also instructed his students to establish a lot of education institutions all over Chaoshan region, and it was actually quite successful. So from his time, so Chaoshan people from like zero education to I think the best education group in Guangdong province at this time. To give an example, when they come to Qing Dynasty, I think actually it's 50% of Guangdong province Jinshu actually come from Chaoshan region.
的水。
And so when we come to this area, we're looking at the third ethnic groups in Guangdong province, Hakka people, Hejiang. So we can see that very different lifestyles. For example, in Chaoshan, people are actually maritime and very commercial. And when Hakka people came to China, when they came to Guangdong province, the problem is that all good land were taken by other people, so they have to live in the mountains, right? So that's why we have this whole picture showing the living area of the Hakka people. So just in the Andes regions, mountains, and they have to manage to grow their crops on the side of hills. So they have this what they call terraced fields, TT. So it's not like a straightforward flat surface to walk on. And correspondingly, have invented various tools to manage those terraces. So you can see that they have these water pumps powered by hand to get water from lower part of the mountain to the top. To drain their rice paddies. And also you can see that because they arrive quite late and they live in the mountains, so unfortunately the security situation was not very ideal. They could be frequently endangered by bandits and some mobs. So you can see that their house was actually, just you can see in the mountains in the yellow part, a fortress-like shape. So the outer wall were quite thick, and people from a very big family or sometimes very big clan were trying to live together. So in the same whole building, instead of like living in their own houses separately. So these are all to actually strengthen their defense against the bandits and the unwanted visits from the mobs, etc. So that's the living situation of Hakka people. And so people are trying to find a way, to get out of the difficult situations. Of course. So accordingly, we can see that something very interesting in Hakka people's culture. Okay. It's a little bit difficult, but if we just look underneath the bed, you can see that two pairs of slippers.
Yes.
Yeah, two pairs of slippers. And I think the very interesting part is the smaller pair of slippers. Presumably, you think that actually belong to the female. Perhaps the wife of the family. But if you just look at it again, there's something very, very strange about it, because
What?
despite the smaller size comparing to the men's shoes, they're still quite large by Asian Chinese standard. So that's something very interesting about Hakka people is that their women never bump their feet. Right, because they have to engage in very heavy labor on a daily basis. So in Hakka history, there is never a case of women bump their feet. So that's something very different from the practice of other parts of China. I think after Song Dynasty.
The pillow is a small tool.
Yeah. And also, so this is actually a section of a classroom. The classroom is, you could also see that it's a little girl there in the back. So girls could get educated together with the boys in the same classroom. So this is also very uncommon in other parts of China or in other ethnic groups, in China. So also suggesting that the social status of female or women in Hakka culture is actually quite high, or somehow you could see more equal to the male gender in some aspects. So they enjoy, I think, more or less the same social status and treatment as the male gender.
我被人拐走了，我是鸭妈。这也是一部。
So this was actually, I think, a big merchant ship for overseas commerce. And so I think in China's history, when we talk about shipbuilding, there's generally three major types of them. So number one is shatran. So shatran is actually something we use to travel inland. So say for example in the rivers, so shatran usually is shallow and have a flat bottom shatran. And then we have guangchuan and fuchuan. So guangchuan and fuchuan are actually also all for say traveling oceans. So Fuchuan, as the name suggests, come from Fujian, and Guangchuan, as the name suggests, built in Guangdong. Yeah. So this one's actually a Guangchuan. And if we get inside. So those are porcelains actually on water from the sunken ships. So this one from the sunken ship, today we call it Nanhai number 1, so Nanhai 1号. It's a ship actually from Song Dynasty. And for some reason today we do not know yet, the ship sank along very close to the coast of today's Yangjiang. Yeah. So we found the ship in I think 1984 and eventually managed to get it out of water at the year 2007. And those are porcelains we found on the sunken ship. So you can see very interesting, the porcelains, they come from very different shapes, designs, colors, styles, right? So suggests them actually produced in different parts of China. Alright, so for example, right here we have Longquan Yao, so Longquan Yao is in Zhejiang, and Cizao Yao of course in Fujian, and Yao different city in Fujian. And I think, let's see, yeah, over there. And so over here, Dehua Yao. So again, a different place in Fujian. So those actually suggest that, so very likely the ship actually set off from a very major port in Fujian, Quanzhou. And I think many people believe it was on its way to Southeast Asia, and perhaps met a storm or whatever and sank in the seas around Guangdong. So we could already see that the maritime trade, they start to form a network. So we have major trading ports, Quanzhou of course, and also Guangzhou. And behind ports you have an inland network. major producing sites. So, for example, back then we have Yiyao, Zao Yao, and over here you have Dehua Yao and Longquan Yao. So, all from different places, and the goods were gathered together into these port cities and being loaded on ships and then transport as export to other cities all over the world. And so over here also very interesting, you can see that the shift in style, as I also saying, in different parts of history in China, Chinese people prefer different style of porcelains. So you can see that in Ming Dynasty, blue and white glaze Qinghua, right? Blue and white glaze porcelain start to become popular, so people start to like a little bit painting some porcelains other than in Song Dynasty because it's like a porcelain bare and clean. Let's see if there's something that we're interested in, we can look at.
Brick?
Perhaps this one. So this one's interesting. It actually shows that how maritime trade was done at the time. So apparently, so when trying to transport like a jar like this, if you leave it empty, basically what you're doing, you're not transporting the jar, you're transporting the air inside it. So a huge waste of room inside the ship. So people would do is they'll try to make every jar as full as possible. So as you can see over here, this is the way we found it underwater. So the jar is actually filled with other small pieces of porcelain. So basically people trying to make sure that every room in the ship was actually properly used, as much as possible. So all suggesting that all these trips are actually commercial. So people trying to do is to get as much profit as possible. So that's why they're trying to fill the ship as full as possible. And also I think many people believe that was the reason why many ships was actually sank, because they were overloaded. So I think this is also a very interesting display of how cargoes were loaded at the time, at maritime period. So you can see that clearly on this layer we have those big, it's not exactly the bottom. The very bottom is actually down there. Yeah, there's huge boulders. So they will call them yatangshi, so they actually weight balance. So when your ship is actually transporting something very light, say for example tea or silk, and just to ensure you have stability on the sea, people try to load some heavy boulders on the bottom of the ship to balance the ship. Right, so that they will have in the bottom, so huge stone boulders. And then we have, of course, those actually drinking waters and sometimes seasoned vegetables, and so actually to supplies for the sea. And on the upper layer you have porcelains, or wrapped in straws to prevent from cracking, from smashing with each other. And on the top you will have silk and tea. So the reason why silk and the tea will be on the top is actually, of course, they are very vulnerable. Yeah, they're not only is they're light, but they're actually vulnerable to the heat and humidity. And to the heat and humidity. So the situations at the time when people have to sail by the wind and by the sea current, so there is no engine on the ship. So what you have to do is you have to wait until the direction of the wind change. So the wind direction actually change with the seasons. So in the spring, the general direction of wind is always from south to the north. So at the time when you start off from Southeast Asia and start your journey to Guangdong, and then you have to wait through the whole summer to avoid the typhoons and also the terrible sea currents. And then when autumn comes, I think around November, the direction of wind will change. They will from north to south, so start from Guangdong to Southeast Asia. So people have to actually just stay in the port for the whole summer, several months. Right, so the thing you want to do is to load your, see those delicate cargoes like silk and tea only before you start off. So that's why they're actually always on the top. So you could feel possibly you could stay in the ship for as long as you want, and possibly will not erode, they will not rot. But tea and soup are different. So they're always being loaded in the ship very, very last. Okay, so that's why they're always on the top. So we have seen a lot of like cargoes and commodities, and of course people have to buy them with money. So we can see that the currencies we used back then in the trade. So first of all, of course, we have precious metals like gold and silver, and so you can see there is Spanish silver and there's actually Persian silver on the wall. So you can see that the far expanding of the trading network works. So in Guangdong actually receive silvers from all over the world. And I think a very interesting thing is if you look at the Persian silver, you can see that actually being cut into pieces. Cut into pieces. So that's the way how people give change back then. Yeah. So you're giving the whole silver, which is more valuable than the good I sell you. What I do, I just get a very big scissor, cut your coin into half, and give you the other half. So that's how people give change back then. And also the copper coins. Copper coins from China were actually widely circulated in areas around China, like in today's Japan, Korea Peninsula, and also in South Asia. The Chinese coins are actually very, very popular. So you could also say that people just come from Japan and use Chinese coins in their daily life, and even to purchase things from China directly. And I think a very interesting thing is, especially in Song Dynasty. Song Dynasty, we know that its territory is relatively small and just in the center of China. So the copper production, the copper mines are basically out of its border. So in Song Dynasty, we know the economy was very advanced and people will have huge need for money. Right, so there's huge demand of copper in the economy, but meanwhile the copper production is quite low. So in Song Dynasty, throughout Song Dynasty, there is actually quite strict ban on exporting copper and copper coins out of China. However, as we all know, as long as you ban, there's huge profits in it. So you could always say that. Sounds like it over there. The one in the back, the one in the back. Yeah, copper coins ring. So basically, every merchant ship will try to smuggle a little bit of copper coins with them to make the profits. So nearly every ship, despite the ban, will try to carry some copper with it. And so the benefit for the government, why the government want to have foreign trade, of course, is they can collect tax and tariffs. So it's good for the government to keep it running. And so we can see that this is actually a piece of silver eggnog. This one was actually unearthed from today's Xi'an, so Chang'an at the time, so from the capital city of Tang Dynasty. And the engravings on it state very clearly this one is actually come from silver collected from Lingnan, so from Guangdong province. So basically you can see that the flow of the fund. People trade here in Guangzhou, and the government will collect tax, and the tax silver made an eggnog like this, and continuously goes into the central bank to the capital city, and to support their royalty and their luxurious life. I think just over here, if you look at the document on the right, that was actually quite important in Guangzhou's history. So yeah, Qianlong's decree saying that Guangzhou would become the only city permitted for foreign trade. So actually, along with is a whole system. The Westerners today will call it the canton system. So canton system refers to, first of all foreigners without a special permission could only visit the city of Canton. So they could only visit one Chinese city, which is Guangzhou. So that's number one. And number two is when they visit Guangzhou, they have to comply with a lot of the strict restrictions. So, for example, the common sailors, they could only stay in a designated island. So today's Huangpu and Changzhou. So the sailors could only live in those islands. They could not make it to the city of Guangzhou. So that's number one. And number two. Number three, the captains and high officials of the ship, they could be invited to come to Guangzhou, but without permission, they could not get into the city walls. Yeah, so they could only rent say a shop and do business on the bank of the river. So that's the area gradually become what we call shisaha, the certain factories. So the certain factories actually on the side of the river and outside the city walls. So basically a bunch of Chinese merchants build these like merchant houses and storefronts, and the foreigner when they come to Guangzhou to make business, they will rent those places to stay. And throughout history, there are just, I think, generally 13 very big houses for them to rent, and so the Western will call them certain factories. Right? So that's general system. And so with this decree, and just basically every foreign trade have to be here conducted in Guangzhou. So accordingly, you can imagine that the huge tariffs will be collected here as well. So I think at its peak, about 40% of whole Qing dynasty's government's income come from Guangzhou.
So all the book write all the terms.
Yeah.
So very terms.
Very strict. The whole system very interesting. For example, if you're first come, so if you're arriving in Guangzhou for the first time, say for example from UK. So back then, yeah, you can say UK. I'll give it to you. So if it's the first time in Guangzhou, so all you have to do is you have to go to Macau first, and you have to anchor your ship over there, and the captain have to make a visit to Humen. So over there, they have to find a local Chinese merchant to take a guarantee for him. So today, in China, we call it 找一个保人. So the merchant's guarantee is whatever happens during that, so Englishmen stay in Guangzhou. So either they have a dispute or they violate the law. Whatever anything happens to him, so that merchant in Guangzhou will compensate. So just in case you just jump in the ship and disappear, and there's nobody to take the loss. So you have to find someone. You have to persuade the Chinese people to take a guarantee for you. So after you have the guarantee, you go back to Macau and take your ship, and you can sail again up the Pearl River to Humen and show you the official your certificate. You have already found yourself a guarantee. Then you can continue your journey right away to today's Huangpu, right? And as I said, there's a few islands that which common sailors are ordered to stay over there. So the English ship and English sailors that have to stay on the Huangpu Island or Changzhou Island, and only the high officials like the captain and managers are permitted to take some small ships provided by the Guangzhou government along with the cargo to Shisan, to certain factory to make business and stay over there. And during the stay, for most of the time, they could not leave certain factory area. So if they want to go to anywhere else, they have to report first and get your permission. So usually, as I said, you have to stay in Guangzhou, just stay in a certain factory area for the whole summer, and so prevent them from getting too bored. The government will actually organize them to make a trip around the city 2 times a month. So on the 8th day and 18th day, so 5月初8和18, yeah. so they can have a travel group to travel around Guangzhou. But that's the only travel they are permitted to do. And after they're done with the business and autumn come, the wind is right, they just take the small boats provided by the government and to the island, gather around together with their sailors and the ship and leave Guangzhou. So the whole procedure over there to restrict their actions and activities.
It sounds like a different kind of visa.
Yeah. Very
Similar.
even more strict, I think. So I think among the foreigners, came to China while Guangzhou. This one person I think very, very need our attention in particular. So my dear Ricky, I think he's Italian. So I hope my Italian pronunciation is accurate. So he's actually Italian missionary, Italian missionary. So he came to China, I think, very close to the end of the Ming Dynasty, So his mission was of course, as a missionary, is to get Chinese people into believing Roman Catholic, so his own religion. But to ensure he is welcomed by the local Chinese, he tried to intrigue Chinese people with more, interesting things from the Western world. So I think he was the first person to brought mechanical clocks into China, and also I think this map of the world is also something he brought to China to interest the Chinese people, into listening to him. So this was actually later on when he was more or less accepted by the Chinese society, and when he was actually welcomed into the Forbidden City by Wang Emperor himself. He cooperated with his friend Xu Guangqi, so I think it's a scientist from Ming Dynasty. Together they created this map. So we call it Kunyu Wanguo Quangu. So Kunyu actually, Kun means earth, and Yu is actually like a vessel or like a car. So that's the old Chinese concept. The earth is actually carried on the big carriage. So Kunyu and Wanguo, the means is like straightforward. So on the earth and all of the world is all the countries, and they have a map in there. So the map is actually quite interesting because if we look at the map, I think Western world like Europe and even the United States use today, what they have is actually the Atlantic Ocean in the middle, so that you can have American over here and Europe over here and Asia is on the edge. But this map you can see that Rick Madeira apparently tried to make an adjustment for the user in Asia. So he rotated a little bit to make the Pacific Ocean in the center. So that way you can see basically China is somehow in the center part of the map, easier for use and also more acceptable for people. Throughout the map you can see lots of transcripts. So there's a part I think also you can see that the ocean part is actually quite accurate, somehow accurate based on Rick Madeira's knowledge. And also if you look at the inland part you can see that so the part in China is very detailed. In comparison you see that in America, so it's actually quite rough. So that's because the inland parts, especially the China part, is completed by his friend Xu Guangqi. So it's actually a combination of Western knowledge and the Chinese knowledge together. This map is actually, let's say, quite influential, not only in China. The map was also printed in many copies, and the printed copies actually actually circulated to Japan and Korea, and I think especially in Japan, it inspired the Japanese people to try to set up to explore the world because before they set them up in their own way, they could only see there's one like big foreign country, which was China. And after they got that, they got inspired and they tried to set up to see the other part of the world, and especially Europe, and somehow started their own way to modernize their country. But that's different story. History.
No Australia and New Zealand.
Not in Australia. No. So I think from this point and just, look at the section afterwards, we're looking at export goods from Guangdong. So White Xiaoping. So as I said, Guangdong was decreed by Qianlong as the only trading port in China. And of course we're trying to export a lot of goods, and we just look at them. So I think number one is all silverware. Silverware. So you can see that's the feature of the silverware is made here in Guangzhou. They share the characteristics of some Western purpose. So this one is actually a trophy. So apparently very Western style. But if you look at the detailed decoration elements, you can see a lot of the Chinese elements. So you have dragon and the sea birds, which is basically a very, very Chinese concept, and you rarely see in Western words. And so I think just basically that all over the place you can see the shape of dragons and Chinese elements. So there's a combination of Chinese elements and Western purpose. So these also export funds were actually quite a good example to show the export goods back, so were made back here in Guangzhou in the 18th century. So, well, the folding fans, of course, lots of people use folding fans, back then in China, but we use the folding fans in a very different way. So, if we talk about, men at the time, still scholars, use folding fans, but their folding fans have to be, very, very simple in the design. So, you have bamboo sticks, and usually you can have some Chinese paintings or some calligraphy works on the face of fine, but that's it. These very, very delicate, decorated fans, it's just made for one purpose, is to actually export to the Western world and for the use of ladies. So everything you can see that actually here made in Guangzhou and exported overseas, and we only purchased them back from Europe recent years. Yeah. So these are just solely made for the purpose of export. It was never used domestically. And they use many precious materials like ivory and mother of pearls, and up there you can see they use silver and gold thread. Yeah. This one I think is particularly interesting because you can see that just under generally the style of painting they actually use some Western painting styles. Yeah, they use Western painting styles, but in the foreground is I think actually this one from Chinese opera, and so full of different characters. And I think also if you just look very closely, just look at the face of each character. Yeah, you'll notice they're actually different from paper. So these are actually cut. Yeah, let's see, there's small cuts of ivory. Yeah, there's small cuts of ivory and 象牙贴片. Right. And also if you look at the clothes is also more colorful than the paper, right?
那里很薄啊。
对。 And the clothes are also more colorful than the paper themselves. So the paper is actually a piece of the silk. So they just make small kinds of silk and stick to where the clothes should be and make it more, vibrant color on it. And underneath you have this, we call it blades, 上古 blades. And they're made of silver threads coated with gold. And so the blue and the green decorations enamels 那个珐琅。Right. And wow, I think this one's new. This ivory farm shows how delicate people can actually treat the ivory. So if you take closely, you can see some very thin threads running behind the flowers. So those are actually not silver threads, but actually the whole piece of ivory, and people just take some ivories off, and the remaining part forming this very thin threads.
Please do not touch.
And this one, I think it's not painted in pottery, Guangxiu. Yeah, from silk.
Please do not touch.
Everyone looks so weak. I think it's not for use,
It's
just for show.
yeah, it's a decoration. I think if you just look at from the distance, you notice that the fans come different sizes. Some are really big and some are small. So because they are decoration pieces, so they at a different time of history, there's different popular trends. Yeah. So sometimes people want to, it's popular to have large finds, and sometimes it's very popular to use small finds. It's actually a popular trend now. I think just now we also talked about enamels, so 珐琅 enamel. Enamels are actually it's a foreign technique, so depends on the type. Enamels they originate from ancient Egypt, and some modern enamel techniques emerge from I think today's France and Belgium, those areas. So culturally, I think also because they come from overseas, Guangzhou people became the first people to get to know those techniques in China, and culturally they learned how to make enamels. First in China, and so this one's actually previously used in Forbidden City. So in Qianlong era, it was made in Qianlong style. You can see that it's a painted enamel and use a different, let's say, combination of very different ways, decoration styles. So you can see that the flowing flowers and tree leaves, they basically use a Baroque style. So 巴洛克风格. Yeah, right. And the golden part, you can see that are actually Buddhism images. Yeah, 金色的是佛教. And but if you just look at the side, there's I think Taoism paintings, 就一些道教的画. So you can see that a combination of Western styles, Buddhism styles, and Taoism styles. So we put them together, you can call them Qianlong styles. We just put everything together, mix them up. I think in this section we talk about overseas Chinese, and so why we link together overseas Chinese people and also Guangdong people is I think when it comes to like the 19th century and early 20th century, about 75% of overseas Chinese population actually originated from Guangdong. And some of them were actually quite successful. Just take one example, Hu Yaji. Hu Yaji was so successful in Singapore. It's basically many roads and districts and schools named after him. And also, if you just look at history, and he was actually very influential commercially. You can see that not only in Chinese records, but I think also some records made noted by the Russians and the Japanese. They will taught people that if you're trying to make a business in Singapore, the first thing you do is ensure you make a visit to this man, and get his consent to the business locally. So it was very interesting that we somehow did not know he was that successful in Singapore. Only when I think in recent years when Singapore started to make their own history, and when they tried to, for example, visit the hometown of Yaji, and they came to Guangzhou and asked about his where he lived and who are his ancestors, who are his ancestors, etc. Then we realized that was once a very successful people from Guangzhou, and it became very important in Singapore history.
Please do not touch.
So Diallo, or today we can call them fortress towers. They're very special because they also show that with these immigrants or let's say overseas Chinese population grow, they maintain their link connection with our home country or the hometown. So you can see that with those people, there's influx of Western styles and Western techniques, and which can be reflected in architecture of those buildings. So, for example, all those towers they use cement trainees. So at the time. Today I think cement is quite common, but I think in 20th century China they were actually quite advanced building materials, and they were just imported from overseas. And also you can see that in the style of those buildings, they tried to combine some local Chinese styles together with some Western styles. So you can actually see the columns are Greek style, and the rooftops, so the spherical roofs actually we can see them, they're actually Turkish style somehow. And if you look at the small decoration panels in detail, the paintings over there usually tell about some Chinese stories. So that's, you can see that's a very good combination of very different elements in this one architecture. And not only, I think, it's architecture styles, but also you can see just very just to give some very brief idea of what happened with those people. So they tried to introduce many Western stuff into China. So we have cameras, of course, sewing machines over there, binoculars, and you can see that there's glass bottles and think modern magazines, etc. So all those things, they just introduce the products themselves into China, and also gradually they're trying to establish factories and to start to make them locally. So I think Guangdong people is actually a very major pushing power for the modernization of China in the early 20th century.
等我吃网红奶瓶。
And so what modernized was not only architecture and some daily use products and factories, and also so you can see that they are trying to introduce the whole new different system into China. So for example over here you can say that the way people do business was different. So those are actually I think share certificates. So you can see that people started to establish, in modern sense, companies and corporations. And So with them, they can mobilize the capitals in the society. So all of things just drastic, changes in the way that society operates come from overseas Chinese. And again, because most of the overseas Chinese are basically Cantonese people, so you can see that the Cantonese people are driving power of the modernization of China.
It's a step.
Yeah, it's a stand. So I think we'll just continue what we talked about. The Cantonese people, they go abroad and they see new things and they brought new things back to China. And I think gradually, at first there was change in architecture, right? And gradually I think there were changes in what we use in daily life. We have cameras and people can have hot water and they have glass bottles. And then we start to establish companies, factories, so the way of business changed. And even further down, I think a deeper change in the society started to emerge, and today we call it an evolution and even a revolution, right? So if you see that people brought in a revolution to China, so let's start from here. Ronghong, yeah. I think he was let's see, the educist. He was driving force to ask the permission of Qing Dynasty government to send small children to the United States to study overseas. And amongst all the students, most of them later on become, I think, the founding power of the Republic of China. And, the revolution came with them. See, and also here. Yes. So I also, have experiences studying overseas, and actually, he first gathered all of his cameras overseas in Japan, in the United States, and when he gathered enough strength, they came back to China and used the power to, finally have a successful revolution and change the course of China altogether.
Who is the other two people?
So this one's Li Dazhao. Dazhao also, founding father of Communist Party. And this one, sorry, just one second. 对，廖仲恺是he was the head of Guangdong province at the time, 广东省长。Let's just take one. This one over here. Yeah. So the benediction edict of Emperor Xuan Hong to declare the end of Qing Empire, and I think also the end of all empires of China for around 2,000 years. So everything ends from there, and a new era of modernized China starts from here. And this one, first time ever in Chinese history, we start to have a constitution in the modern sense. So came in the 1920s. We can see that whole Guangdong province is getting modernized very rapidly. So you can see that I think up there. We try to build modern roads in Guangdong. In Guangzhou. So see the old city walls were actually teared down, and we built like roads up along old city walls, and some modern infrastructure will start to emerge, like for example a power plant, and I think Guangzhou was the first city in China to have say electricity. And we also, you can see airports in Guangzhou. I think the oldest airport in Guangzhou was Yantang. Oh. Yeah, it was Yantang. And of course we have railway. It was completed in 1936. Then there was 1938. Of course, China also get involved in World War II, and so the anti-Japanese war started. Guangzhou, I think, because its location is on the coastline, so it fell very quickly, and so there is a historical picture showing Guangzhou was bombed by the Japanese army. So after war, the Japanese surrendered in Guangzhou. It was September 16th, 1945, and unfortunately, just after that there was the civil war. So between the KMT regime and the Communist Party, and so you can see over here. So that's the year 1949. So this was actually destroyed Haizhu Bridge. So the KMT, when they retreat out of Guangzhou, they destroy the bridge to ensure the maximum damage to the development to the local government. And the building was not, the bridge was not rebuilt, I think, until 1960s. So, so we have on the 14th October 1949, so the PLA, the Liberation Army, entered Guangzhou, and marking Guangzhou became part of PRC, of course, and so from China's academic way of defining what is history. So the history is the day before. So the PRC claim, so that's on the day. I think we can also say the contemporary history of Guangdong just ends over there, and that will be the end of the whole exhibition. So finally, on this wall, just a display of the achievement of Guangdong and the Guangdong people ever since. And if you come to visit this museum, often you will notice, I think very interestingly, is the pictures on the wall get changed very often. Because just every few years, something new on the wall will become old and be replaced by other things, showing the vibrant, I think, very quick developments in the society, even as today. And that's it. I think that's the whole exhibition on Guangdong culture and Guangdong society.
Thank you very much. It's really perfect private tour.
多谢你们听完，不然的话也太无聊。